there! Welcome back to another video on my channel. Today we are going to be talking about book marketing, but a very odd specific instance of book marketing. Yeah, Argylle. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about Argylle. I'm going to be talking about the book slash movie of Argylle, this weird like mystery behind it, and then my own thoughts on this sort of like publicity stunt. So if you're interested in that, just keep on watching. For those of you who don't know, there's a movie coming out, and I think by the time this video's up, maybe it already came out or it's coming out this week. It's called Argylle, and it is the story of, it's like a spy movie. It's done by the same person who did Kingsman, and it is a spy movie about a woman who is an author who just so happens to have stories or write stories that like are accurate in the spy world, right? And so they like kind of kidnap her and like take her on missions and stuff. Okay. It looked like a fun movie. Like the trailer made it seem kind of cute and quirky and like fun. I initially thought that this was kind of like, I don't know if you guys have seen it. It was also kind of like an okay movie, but there's a movie that came out called, I think it's Lost City, and it has like Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock in it, and it's a similar preference, but the main character being a female author, and she writes these romances that are also kind of like adventure based, that kind of explore like different archaeology sites or something. And the antagonist in the story, who's played by Daniel Radcliffe, believes her stories to be literal and true, and like there's actually a secret treasure in this like lost city somewhere, that is based on her books. And spoiler, I guess, she like is actually like an archaeologist, or her and her husband used to be archaeologists, or they used to like study this stuff, so she's an academic. So there is some like truth in her writing, although it's heavily fictionalized romances. So her and Channing Tatum, who happens to be her cover model for the books, go on this adventure to find the lost city based on that. Argylle to me feels like a very similar plot point to this movie that was already made and came out very recently. From what I get from the trailer, like with the author being literally stolen at some point in time to carry out stories that are based on her fictional book, right? So there's already similarities there. So I wasn't really super excited to see this movie from the get. But I was really interested because of like the social media marketing of this movie. I was talking about this to my husband when we were laying up in bed, and he was talking to me, he's like, do you know, like the author, like there's some mystery about the author of this book, Argylle. And he was like, because he listens to podcasts about pop culture, except they're all Brazilian podcasts about pop culture. And so on one of his podcasts, they were talking about how people are speculating that the author of Argylle, or the brains behind Argylle, is actually Taylor Swift. And I was like, that's super interesting, Taylor Swift, huh? And because it's funny, because I told him that I got a TikTok on my TikTok feed of Henry Cavill signing the books at like a Barnes and Noble or something, the Argylle book, right? And I was like, that's weird, because if it's Taylor Swift, then why is Henry Cavill signing the books? Like, we were talking about like maybe it's celebrity authorship, and I was like, okay, well, what if, you know, they're trying to make it seem like Taylor Swift, but it's actually Henry Cavill, because he's the one that's actually signing books. And from what I know about Henry Cavill is that like when he was filming The Witcher, he was very much into the source material. He kind of gets really into the source material in lots of roles, but I know he's read the fantasy genre before. I know he reads books. So I'm like, okay, well, you know, Taylor Swift is a songwriter, and she's a good songwriter, but I don't know how that would transition into a full like novel, whereas someone I know who reads these kind of high fantasy novels, maybe they would want to try to do a book, and that's why Henry's signing it, because that's a very author thing to do. Like, it's not normal for the actor of a book to do that. So yeah, we were talking amongst ourselves, and we're trying to come up with solutions to that. But ultimately, I watched a video the other day by D'Angelo Wallace. It literally just came out, and he was covering this story, and I learned a lot from his video, and I kind of just wanted to relay that information to you guys, and then kind of talk about like my responses to it as an independent author. So yeah, that's kind of like the long-winded way of like how I got on this topic and like what I want to do with it, right? Because I don't want to copy and paste D'Angelo's video. Um, not cool. But I am going to just like present the information that he presented and then like talk about what I think, how that is going to affect marketing for books for here on out. Depending on how successful this actually ends up being. Maybe I should regroup and explain to y'all why people think that Taylor Swift was the one that ended up writing this movie slash book, right? So people have been thinking it's Taylor Swift because I'm not a Swiftie. I'm not a big fan of Taylor Swift, but what I do know is that she likes to do Easter eggs for upcoming projects. She will dress a certain way or maybe hints at it in interviews and other song lyrics about what she wants to do in upcoming projects. She recycles some material. The main character in the movie who plays said author is named Ellie Conway, right? And people have thought that's a fictionalized version of Taylor Swift because they both have a cat, and the cat's like a prominent thing in the movie. They both have a cat that is the exact same species or breed of cat. And they both have the cat backpack, which is something that I guess Taylor Swift uses a lot. I don't know. And Taylor Swift has also been wearing Argylle print recently. There's other instances of why, but I'm just going off of the ones that I remember that kind of like stuck out to me. So people thought, oh, that's Taylor Swift hinting at her being Elle Conway. And it's also important to note, and I really should stress this because I didn't know this at first either, but the book Argylle and the movie Argylle are not it's not a one-to-one. Like, it's not the same story. So, the movie references the book that Elle Conway wrote that starts all the problems for the spy organization, right? So the book that's being sold currently in stores is that book. It's not the story of the movie, but it is the book that Elle Conway wrote, the main character, that's what's getting her in trouble. So it's about this, it's not about Elle Conway, it is about her main character in that universe. If that makes sense. Okay. I thought the thing that drives me nuts about this, there's a lot of things that drive me nuts about this, but the book is literally just out. Like, it got published maybe a few days ago, and the movie comes out like this week. So they're claiming that this Elle Conway person, she's got an Instagram, right? She's got an Instagram, and there's like absolutely no pictures of her or her face or herself on this Instagram account. It's mostly promotional stuff from the movie that's coming out, and maybe some pictures to try to connect to New York, because in the author bio for this book and for the movie, the main character Elle Conway lives in New York, right? Remember that, keep that in mind, because that comes up again later in this video. Okay, so she lives in New York, and so sometimes, like, there's a picture of a pigeon or something, and I was supposed to tie that to like New York City, and some Swifties were actually taking those pics and trying to see if they could find hints to Taylor Swift in some capacity with those pictures. Listen, I'm an author. I have my author's Instagram page. There are some faceless author accounts, that are out there. You don't necessarily have to show your face, but if you are an author and you're promoting your work, I promise you that the content that's shared on this page is not the kind of content that I've seen in my writer's Instagram and any of my colleagues. We post things like writing updates constantly. Writing updates, just like check-ins on how life is going, or like where we're at in the writing process. We post like writer memes. We share promotional things of our books in the form of reels, pictures, short form video, long-term video. Like, when you're an author, you really have to sell yourself. So you got to constantly post, you got to constantly do this. So it's very, very clear to me that they made this Instagram just for the movie. And also, it's highly bizarre for a debut author, which they're claiming this person is, a debut author to have like a $200 million fucking movie deal contract with a big time, movie producer and director, with a star-studded cast, because remember, Henry Cavill's in this, Samuel L. Jackson's in this, Dua Lipa, so quite a few big famous people are in this movie. So yeah, to be a debut author, have no social media presence whatsoever outside this really, really, really plain Instagram, and to have this movie deal and $20 million, and the director has talked about multiple books or multiple movies in this series. Very bizarre. So this is clearly like an industry plant type thing. This is not an actual author. I think most people can tell that, but I just wanted to put that out for you guys. This is very clearly that. So I think that also supported the argument why maybe the person who came up with this idea is either the director themselves or a big celebrity like Taylor Swift or Henry Cavill, because they already have the connections and the money to be able to take on a new venture like this as opposed to somebody else. Okay. It is also really bizarre for the book to only be coming out now alongside the movie, right? So this also tells me that the writing does not prioritize the book. It is explicitly tied with the movie, because most books or most book deals, you have a book that like comes out and then is out for a while and gains a lot of popularity, like with readers or online, and then they get a book deal out of that, right? That's normally how this goes. And I can understand, like, if people don't know about publishing or timelines for this, they might get confused, or, you know, they might think this is more plausible than what it really is. But yeah, anyway, so I kind of want to talk about this book a little bit more specifically. Now, I did not read this myself, but D'Angelo did, and he did a great job of like breaking everything down in his video. And so I am going to have a link to his video in my description, and I really want you all to watch it because it's very informative. But something that stood out for him when he was reading this, first of all, he didn't really like it. This is written as a thriller, like a spy thriller, and the director who was making this movie has praised it so much that he thinks it's literally going to be like the next James Bond series, James Bond books, James Bond's movies, really hyping this up. So it's a lot to deliver on, clearly. So D'Angelo read it, and he was not very impressed with it. It was not as exciting, in his opinion, as it could have been. But also, I think the main takeaway I want to focus on is that, like, clearly this was not written by an American person. Now remember, Elle Conway said that this mysterious author, this fictionalized author, is from New York, right? Or New York State. She's American, right? According to D'Angelo, not only is this book riddled with weird stereotypes for folks, like really cartoony stereotypes of like what's it like to be American, right? They got the American guy, or they got like the Russian bad guy. They have certain minorities depicted just to like, they have certain minorities depicted to share a struggle story and then dip out for no reason. Yeah, so on top of that, but there's also a ton of usage of like colloquialisms that aren't from the US, or like phrases that Americans just don't use, and that they're actually like British phrases. So he provided a ton of examples within the text of just the people, even the quote-unquote American characters, using British turns of phrase. So much to the point where the author was self-aware and made a comment about how it's hard to know what colloquialisms or what translates across the pond and what doesn't. Which, again, Google that. Don't even get me started. Anyway, so not only is there phrases and colloquialisms that Americans just like don't use, period, riddled throughout the book, even though the characters are supposed to be like it's supposed to be an American author, right? There's that. Also, so in American English, we use, like, if we're doing dialogue, right, we use the double quotes on the beginning and end of said dialogue. Within this book, apparently, there's only single quotes used, which, again, is not part of American English. Maybe that's British English, I'm not quite sure, but they only use, like, single quotes in this book. That, and then there's multiple instances of the spellings being incorrect, so, like the word color has a U in it, right? That's not something we do here in the US, but that is how that spelling is in England. So, what can we deduce from all this? Okay, this author is not American. Yay, okay, so people are trying to figure out who this person is. So clearly, with that sort of grammar in mind, it is most likely that these people, whoever wrote this, is not Taylor Swift or Henry Cavill, because why would they be so British if they were writing this book? You know, although it's like spy novels are notoriously British, but I feel like that would be quite a lot of work to go through to just, yeah. You would have to edit yourself incredibly well to be British like this on purpose if you're an American. Whereas if you're a British person and you're sending this manuscript along and nobody takes the time to edit it because they have movie deadlines or whatever, it makes sense that a lot of this would stay in there. You know what I mean? So yeah, these are the other red flags that are going on with this book. And then D'Angelo also caught something at the very end. I shouldn't say he caught it, but obviously other people did too because he references a Washington Post article. But anyway, so in the very end of the dedication in this book, there's also a sentence that alludes to the author, Ellie Conway, reaching out to a certain professor to ask him about star charts, and for his knowledge to make the book more accurate or whatever. So yeah, so what did they do? There was this woman or this writer who wrote for the Washington Post, and they reached out to said professor and said, hey, were you contacted by L.A. Conway at any point in time to do some consulting on this book? And that professor was like, yeah, I was consulted for this book for Argylle, but the author's name was not L.A. Conway. It was another woman, and I believe it is Tammy Cohen, right? And we're like, aha, whoa, we have a name, great. So who is Tammy Cohen? She is a prominent British thriller author who's written plenty of her own work, and so what happened probably, or most likely, was she was contacted through her publisher or contracted to write Argylle, which is basically like ghostwriting for this book / movie. Which again, ghostwriting happens. It is, you know, not an unusual practice for people to write books for somebody else, or, you know, write under a different pen name, or write specifically for certain projects. That's fine. It's just the marketing for this went about really crazy and really weird, to the point where I'm of the opinion that these people who marketed this book as an Easter egg type thing and like made allusions to Taylor Swift did so because Taylor Swift has an incredible amount of star power, and she really, really influences young people. There's no doubting that. Her Eras tour did incredibly, incredibly well financially. The NFL even like memes her at this point because new people are getting into football because of Taylor Swift's relationship with Travis Kelce. And they even have like Taylor Swift in their bio or something. You know what I mean? Like, obviously the merch sales for Taylor Swift's boyfriend and stuff has gone up ridiculously. Joe Biden and the Democratic Party is really trying to get an endorsement from Taylor Swift instead of making policies that actually help young people, because they're worried about losing this next election. And last time when Taylor Swift told people to go out and vote, 65,000 people registered to vote after she made some sort of public statement. So yeah, she has a lot of influence and power over regular people. And I'm sure if Swifties did honestly believe that Taylor Swift had a hand in writing this project or something, that they would flock to the movie theaters in droves. You know what I mean? But like, my question is did they get her permission to do this, or is this just kind of like, I don't know. That part to me is really bizarre, and that's kind of like what I want to talk about in this second part. So we kind of went over like the history of Argylle, the movie / the book. And from what I understand from the person I watched, both are mediocre. Okay. I haven't seen it myself. I might go see it this weekend just to see what all the hype's about. If you're interested in this video and if it does well, I'll read Argylle myself and give you my thoughts, my original thoughts on this book. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like this was all just one big marketing step. A clever one at that, like I'll give you that. But it was dependent on this mystery of who this author really is, right? The mystery of it, and it depended on backpacking off of somebody else's success in order to make this franchise more successful, right? Because the director has gone on to say that they want to do more movies, and they're doing movies in different orders because they wanted to give it like a Star Wars type legacy or something, where they're doing the books out of order. So like the movie is supposed to be the 4th book, and then the first book is I don't know. It's really confusing. So I personally think that the director, or you know, the one who's been the most vocal about this, is clearly behind the concepts of it and is trying to get people to outsource the writing of this book to build some sort of mysterious franchise. So like I said, they're marketing off of the mystery, and they're marketing off of Taylor Swift's success. with a little bit of Henry Cavill sprinkled in, but mostly off of Taylor Swift's success, right, as a powerful cultural icon and singer. Regardless of how you feel about her, whether you like her or not, like, she is important, right? We have given her this importance, and she is a money making machine at this point. Um, so it feels a little like schemy to me, not gonna lie. Just like the second part of that, I think the book mystery thing could have been really cute if they would have played that well, and if it was like an actually well written story or a well done movie that people really enjoyed. This could have been fun for people, and they could have continued that sort of marketing in the future. But the fact that they had to bring Taylor into it, kind of, I don't know, makes me feel some kind of way. Um, Obviously, it is much easier for celebs to have this kind of star power. I'm sure maybe they consented to her like this. I don't know. I have no idea. And there's nothing wrong for like having a character that's inspired by someone, right? Like when you're writing, like maybe maybe I have a character that's inspired by, I don't know, Beyonce or something. Like I make a pop star character that's inspired by my favorite boy band, BTS, right? Fine, as long as it's not a one for one and it's actually like flattering, right? But I'm not necessarily writing that with the idea of like I'm going to make money off of this person. I'm writing that because I am inspired by some aspect of like their aesthetic or their personality or their talent, and I want to transmute that and make a character that's their own person but has a similar sort of vibe or swagger about them or something like that, right? I don't think that was done in this case. I don't think that was done in this case. And if the marketing with Taylor Swift feels a little icky to me, I know I'm like repeating myself over and over again, but I'm just trying to get my thoughts out. I think it's so hard to market yourself when you're an independent artist or when you're an independent like author in general. And some of us do rely on gimmicks. Some of us rely on trends and stuff to get our stuff out there. And obviously, like, people will use like trending songs or trending audios to try to boost their own videos and get their own products out there, right? Famous people already have influence, so yeah, of course, market off of a famous person. But I feel like it's one thing for someone who's starting out to kind of do that. Like if I danced with my books to like Ice Spice or something, like that's one thing, right? But for a big like Hollywood director who can have all the talent and resources at your fingertips to hire talented people and make a good product, to rely on the same sort of TikTok audio trend bullshit by backpacking on another celebrity person's fame doesn't hit the same way for me. I'm sorry. I think that's really cheap. And girl, I don't know, like, what do you bring to the table? You know? Because granted, like, if I was like really famous, right? Like if I was a super famous author and I had all these books coming out, I would not be using that shit. I would not be trying to backpack off of Taylor Swift or somebody else. Or no, I wouldn't. I would just rely on my talent and my audience and my readers to sell the book. And I'd be like, hey, I made this. Check it out. If you like this, this, and this, and this, check out my book. Woo. You know, you're kind of above it at that point. And like, I think there's been this trend, and maybe I'm just bitter, but like, I think people want things cheap. They want to make money for cheap and for now. And no one's thinking sustainably in a lot of areas in life, but nobody's thinking sustainably in entertainment at all either. Because like I said, you could have had a fun franchise that like every time a movie or book would release, there'd be some sort of mystery leading up to it. But that takes time and effort and energy and planning to make a mystery type thing. But no, you just relied on a celebrity to do that. And it's kind of like, you know, you have all these talks about like using AI in artwork and writing and a lot of other industries too. Like I was just chatting with my friends who are in law, and they were talking about how, you know, there was a big controversy about someone using AI to write their briefs for them, and like they were quoting court cases that never actually happened or weren't real. And so they got in trouble for that. People are always trying to take shortcuts to get stuff done, and I get it. Like, you know, was it work smarter, not harder? Okay, sure. That is a philosophy in of itself. But like the whole point of art is the craft, in my opinion. So like when you use this like this when you're in this culture that's like praising AI to try to like make things more efficient, but then obviously you are cutting down on the quality of this stuff and you're cutting down on the quality of the craft. It's really annoying when like you're relying on that shortcut mindset to kind of get you further, especially when you're already high up. Like you could be redistributing that to other people and building a community and hiring people to do all this for you and actually write for you and sorry, you know, do you get what I'm trying to say? Maybe I'm not articulating this the best way. um but yeah, as authors we're already like struggling to market our own stuff in a big sea of other very strong voices, of people who are already established. um People want to take shortcuts with using AI to write or using AI to promote their book with like AI art, or you know, and I'm not saying like all AI is bad. I think it's a tool that could be used really effectively to, especially to help generate ideas, when you're in like a creative rut. um but I don't think it's the answer for everything. I think there are skill sets that people need to develop and use, and I don't think we should rely on shortcut methods to do that as well. Um, Sorry, I like rolled the window down because the lighting's kind of getting weird in here. Like it's just shining right here in this specific spot, and it's like a little distracting. Um, so I apologize for that. Anyway, yeah. So was the marketing for this clever? Yeah. Do I wish the product was as good as the marketing idea? Yeah, but the thing is, the marketing idea is also a little skeezy. So, you know, the book itself, I don't think is going to be properly invested in. But who knows? I'll read it and see. There's a lot of books out there that are like really, really marketed well, or there are like bestsellers, or you know, people are really promoting. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's not the best quality either. And also, I wonder like if they did want to make this sound like an American author wrote this, why didn't they just hire an American author, or why didn't they hire an editor to take out all the Britannic phrasings? Like clearly like they wanted people to piece it together and they wanted to get caught get caught or whatever, or have this come out. But like, did I wonder if the actual author, Miss Cohen, wanted this to come out? Like I don't know how this is going to affect her book sales, or if she wanted her name associated with this, or if she wanted to remain anonymous as a ghostwriter. Like, you know, I don't know. I don't know enough about that. There were some interesting questions raised. Um, but like, do I think people are going to continue to market themselves this way? Who knows? Like, who knows how well this does in theaters? Like, it depends on how much money they earn from this in book sales and in movie rights. You know what I mean? Um, I don't know if other movies would try to copy that and just kind of like hire people to rush through books to come out alongside movies, or what. Like, is this going to be a new form? How is this going to affect the publishing industry basically? Like, are people going to just write to film instead of having films based off of books? And you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say? Or are they going to have, are we going to see this push for people to write books alongside the movies so they come out in tandem? I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm not exactly sure myself. It'd be interesting to think about in the future, but I kind of also am hesitant for that because look, I don't think we've had a lot of original movies come out lately, or like a lot of original ideas in a while. And I do think that the films and TV shows that are original tend to get shut down, or tend to only like have one season and like fizzle out. Or they're shutting down things that I think are pretty original, you know? So I don't know. I guess it's whatever makes money at the end of the day. So what are you gonna do, you know? So thanks for listening to my rant. I'm sorry that this went on for so long. Like, I don't I don't know. I just have a lot of feelings about this, and I hope they were coherent. And if they weren't, I'm sorry. I'll try better next time when I rant to stay on track, I guess. But yeah, if you want to support me as an independent author who has to market her books herself, you could subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment down below, share it with a friend, or you can check out any of my actual books. So I tend to put links to my books in the description of all my videos, so you can check them out. I have 2 books that are in a series together. It's a dark fantasy series that is has a world that's based on the floral and fauna of Madagascar. And I have another book that's a short story collection that is all around pink horror. Pink horror is horror that primarily centers women and queer folk, and it's a collection of stories that is inspired by the toys and tech of the early 2000s, which was my childhood growing up, and that's called Cursed Images, Scary Stories from a Child of the Internet. So a lot of techno horror. It feels like an old school slumber party where you're sneaking on MySpace in the middle of the night. So it's fun. I have those books in my description, so that's another amazing way to support me, is to support my writing. It would be great if you decided to check those out. And until next time, thanks. Bye.